But with the last little bit of time we have left here, let's talk about what we kind of want from the future of Pokemon. What worked in the Switch
Mhm.
generation? What didn't work in the Switch generation? And moving on to the Switch 2 generation, what are kind of our hopes and expectations for Pokemon as a whole? Anyone want to jump in and go first? I know it's a big question.
I wanna see them shake up the gym formula again. I know we kind of
Yeah.
did a little bit of it, but it feels
Mhm.
like when we went to Alola, that felt genuinely different. And like kind of the requirements to being able to go do your challenges and like just the story setting around it. I felt like that was exactly what I was looking for. And then they kind of started stepping back from that. And I really want to see that again, just because it makes the adventure feel unique to that region in a very specific kind of way that goes beyond go in there and battle. You gonna go
Mhm.
Gigantamax? You gonna Terrastalize? I'm like, yes, yes, of
Yeah.
course. But like beyond that, it didn't really feel that special, I would say. So that's something I really want to see again. In addition
Mhm.
to getting more opportunities to bond with your Pokemon in a meaningful way.
Mhm. Yeah, those are good picks. I agree with that. I think that Sun and Moon, that was a cool deviation. They had the trials instead of the gym
Yeah,
leaders. And at the end of the day, it still boiled down to you go to these 8 places and you do these 8 things. But it was a cool shakeup, and I'd like to see them play with that a little bit more. And they tried in Scarlet and Violet too. You can go to the gyms in any order. But one of my issues there was that there was no level scaling, right? So the first gym you
Mhm.
go to could have level 40 Pokemon, and it just so happened the order I played it in, the eighth gym I went to was the easiest gym. It had level 7, level 10 Pokemon, and like, wow, this gym leader's just terrible. They don't deserve to work here. I should be leading this gym. And so it would make way more sense if every gym leader has this different team, this different set of Pokemon. They look at the challenger, they say, Jada, you have 3 badges. Here's my 3 badge team I'm going to put up against you.
Mhm.
And then if guides writers would figure out all 8 gym leaders different teams depending on what order you go there, and maybe there's a really difficult eighth gym if you save it for last on accident. There's a tough run or a really easy run that you could go through,
that
something
would
like
be
that.
a great way to challenge people, like add challenge people saying like Pokemon games are too easy. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
they're meant for people who can like anybody to play and like that
Mhm.
that needs to be a core feature of it. Like kids and people who don't know like the math behind it or crazy training, like they need to be able to play these and get through the game too.
Mhm.
And that would be a really cool way of like the challenge run of like, okay, this is the hardest way to go through the gyms versus the easiest. And maybe the easy way is like the hey, you should maybe go here next. Like that's like an in-game character saying and guiding you to the more traditional gym path versus the chaotic one or something. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
would
that'd
I
be
would
really
really
cool.
like that as long as there is because I would wanna play through it multiple times at that point just to see the different permutations, but I would also want a way of, like, saving my Pokemon, like, without having to go through home or bank or something like that, to where if, like, I get a shiny on one playthrough, if I don't have home or bank or don't wanna mess with that, even though most people who are really serious about Pokemon do, it'd be really cool to have, like, "Hey, you can store, like, 15 Pokemon, and
Like
then
a new
after
game
you
plus,
New
finish."
game
basically,
plus, yeah.
is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
it
Yeah.
Yeah.
that would be great. And it's like, "Hey, here's" you can store your Pokemon, and then once you finish the 8 gym leaders, you can access these ones. And that way, it kind of adds that kind of loop and replay more even more replayability to Pokemon, which I think is kind of something that has, for me, lapsed. Like, I played a ton of Scarlet and Violet all the way till I finished the Pokédex. I went did a bunch of shiny hunting, did a bunch of Terra raids, and then I just kinda stopped. And there was no reason for me to go back and revisit it because I had done all the story. I had done all the other story quests and such. And so but having a smart way of tweaking the formula via, like, a new game plus, like you guys said, that would actually be really kinda cool and new to a Pokemon experience. That's something they've never done. So that could be fun.
Yeah, and I just
But
uh, go for it.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I could just imagine that, like, changing how people Nuzlocke too. If you can finish a run and then carry Pokemon with you, like, how many Nuzlocks can you keep this same team
Mhm.
alive or something like that? I think there's just a lot of cool opportunities to add replayability to this thing or add a different route or challenges for people like us who have been playing since the very, very beginning and want something fresh, but who need to realize that, right, Pokemon, like Miranda was saying, it's always going to be for the 7-year-old who it's their first generation and they pick their first starter and it's their best friend and they have their rival they want to beat. That's always who Pokemon should and is going to be for. And that is a good thing. This is a great starter RPG franchise. But for people like us who stick with it well into adulthood, I just like to see some slight wrinkles change to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm not asking them to radically change the core experience because I think Pokemon is good as what it is. And then for me, I think the other main thing I want is that Legends Arceus sold roughly 10 million. That's a huge success. It's not nearly as successful as the main lines, which sell like upwards of 20 million. So my hope is just the Legends series continues because we're getting Legends ZA, which I'm
Yeah.
very excited for. Arceus, like I said, was one of my favorite Pokemon games in years. It was about gotta catch 'em all rather than being the very best, and I thought that was just such a cool take on the Pokemon franchise. So my other main wish is just keep the Legends series alive. I'd love if every few years we get a new gen and then we get a new Legends that goes back and revisits another one. So yeah, I just love this series so much. Arceus was such a breath of fresh air for me, and I would love to see this continue beyond just ZA, but as we move on to Nintendo Switch 2. Nick, I want to hear from you. What do you want for the future of Pokemon?
The softball for me is a Pokemon Snap 3, please. I love
Yeah.
Pokemon Snap dearly. I love Pokemon Snap 1 and 2, and I would love to continue that. Give me one set in the past. That'd be incredible. In the form of like a Legends Arceus Snap. I love the idea of visiting, an ancient Kanto and, taking photos there. Being the first progenitor of the photo camera and stuff like that would be really fun. But my unrealistic, unfair wish, I know we just spent like the last 5 minutes chatting about how Pokemon is at its best when it is just an RPG that is pretty straightforward with some hopeful like optional challenge routes for the hardcores like us. But look, the way I see it, if Zelda can do it, Pokemon can do it. Give me a true Breath of the Wild like makeover for a Pokemon series. I would love nothing more than combining the kind of exploration we see in Legends Arceus with the dream Pokemon game we had in our minds as a child, where you would have to crawl into a cave and oh my gosh, there's rock Pokemon hidden there. You have to navigate. I don't know. I think that the dream Pokemon game is this blend of Legends with the mainline series that is a hardcore RPG with this form of exploration, because I feel like for me that's what Pokemon lacks right now, is exploring with my buddies. And I want to be able to uncover new areas that are hidden by only accessible via Pokemon abilities, kind of the way you do in Legends. But I don't know, it feels like it's just missing some sort of like almost Metroidvania aspect. Like I want to be able to have a reason to revisit areas apart from collecting new Pokemon. So again, this is a scattershot, gigantic AAA budget game, but I don't know. I just think that there is something that is on the cusp there, and no matter what happens, I say Monolith Soft. Pokemon Company, work with Monolith Soft, make it happen. They can make gigantic, gorgeous, stunning worlds that perform very well. So, get the budget. You got the budget, Pokemon Company, work with Monolith Soft. Come on.
Yeah, that would be great. Monolith, developers of the Xenoblade Chronicle series, and they also assist on the open world Zeldas, on Splatoon, on Animal Crossing New Horizons. They're one of Nintendo's most valuable studios. They do so much work on their first party stuff, and it does feel like a no-brainer match for them to just pair up with Game Freak and the Pokemon Company to help out on some of this stuff, because the rate that they want to churn out these Pokemon games, as we've talked about, it became unsustainable. It'd be nice for them to bring in some help, and Monolith is a perfect studio to do it. So of everything you just said in your pitch, Nick, that's my favorite part of it, is just bring in some help from them, because they know how to work on Nintendo hardware. They make beautiful, really ambitious games, and that's what Pokemon's trying to do right now. And I think it's really admirable they're going for it, but maybe they just need a little bit of help, as we've learned. Anything else on the future of Pokemon, or should we call it here? We're just about at time.
Latin
Yeah, I
American
mean-
Spanish. Sorry, just got
Oh yeah,
No,
go
yeah,
let's talk
no,
about
it's
that for
great.
people who didn't watch the Pokemon Presents.
Real quick, yeah, I guess they're adding Latin American Spanish. That's what good stuff right there. Yeah.
Yeah, to the future of games, and they talked about it for the trading card game too, right? That they're going to
Yes.
have.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's very
so they're
cool
gonna
that
make
they
sure
stuck
that they
that in
have
there.
that. Yeah. So
It's so smart for Nintendo and Pokemon Company. I mean, that's talking about expanding your audience and getting a whole new generation more excited about things. Putting it in their language, in somebody else's language, is a great way to do that. So props to them. And it sounds like it's probably going to be an initiative they're probably going to every I don't know, couple of years, they'll probably start adding more languages to the list, which would be great.
Yeah.
On the topic of future of Pokemon, we talked about this, I think 2, maybe 3 weeks ago on NVC, Logan, but
Mhm.
I want them to continue what they did with Scarlet and Violet of introducing these other storylines, but I want them to expand on those and make them more meaningful as you play through them. I want the option if I want to be like just if I just want to be like Brock and be a Pokemon groomer, or if I want to just do Pokemon shows and dress up my Pokemon and send them to competitions and become like world famous for that. Like I want them to kind of expand on that aspect. They did a really good job with the other elements the other storylines they did in Scarlet and Violet. But I want to see that kind of like taken up to a more modern level. I think it was a very cool foundation that they built in Scarlet Violet, but I think there's so much more they can do with that style of just adding more than one quest of beat the gym leaders and beat
Mhm.
the Elite Four.
Yeah, I want to be a gym leader. I don't know why. It would just be like
That would be
battling
great.
over and over, but I've always wanted to be a gym leader in these games. I think that'd be something fun to do
I mean,
after you reach the
look,
credits.
they had what in was it Silver and Gold? They had where other trainers you could register trainers and they would ping you for a battle. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
blah 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 wants a
Mhm.
rematch, and
Yeah.
you'd go to them and do a rematch. Why not bring that system in? And be like, hey, you've got a challenger at your gym. Go battle through these challengers, or like you've got 5 challengers waiting for you at your gym, and it's a gauntlet battle through 5 trainers, no healing, or just
Mhm.
like different sets, different levels of difficulty. Like you only get to take 2 into this battle. Okay, this is a double battle for this one. All right, you've got 3 on 3. Like that would be a really cool kind of aspect of being a gym leader.
Here's the thing is you can cosplay that and hand make your own little badges with Pokemon champions eventually, and then you can challenge people and they'll be like, ah, you won. I gotta send you a badge now.
Yeah,
So
I love
That's a
that.
great idea. Yeah,
there
people
you
will set
go.
up Etsy shops for that for sure. Cool. Well, that is a very Pokemon filled episode of Nintendo Voice Chat in the books. We are usually here on Fridays, Thursday today because of the Pokemon Presents, with audio wherever you get your podcasts in a video version on YouTube and IGN.com. Thank you so much, Jada, Miranda, and Nick for waking up before the crack of dawn to join me to talk about the Pokemon Presents. And thank you to Red, Jobert, Marian, and everyone else behind the scenes to make this very early morning episode possible. Nintendo Voice Chat is an IGN production and part of the Geek Media Network. Check out our other weekly IGN and Geek Media podcasts like Beyond, where this week it's a big discussion of our Monster Hunter Wilds review. The game launches tonight, and I'm so excited for that to unlock at 9 p.m. Pacific time. Next week on NVC, it's our milestone 750th episode, and we've got something
Wow.
really, really fun in the works, so make sure to come back next time for a big celebration milestone of 750 episodes of Nintendo Voice Chat. But for now, that is all the time I've got. I got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Have a great week. Thank you so much for listening so bright and early in the morning. We'll be back next time with more Nintendo Voice Chat, the only place that you can
Get the
Get
thing.
the thing.